There it is, folks. My Licorice is alive with Midnight Sun. Originally composed as an instrumental by Lionel, Hampton, and Sonny Burke back in 1947. But when Johnny Mercer, the maestro lyricist, heard it on the radio as he was driving back to the Wood of the Holly from Palm Springs, the lyrics flowed out of his brain like water from a spring. Anyway, Midnight Sun became a huge hit from one of my favorite singers, and that was June Christy. Check out her album, Something Cool. She'll knock your socks off. The title track is really beautiful. Nobody sings it anymore, but you can also find her big hit, which was Midnight Sun, on that album. Nancy Wilson and Ella also laid down beautiful versions of Midnight Sun. Instrumentally, check out the Hank Jones version. It'll take you there wherever there is. And finally, a special thanks to Jim out there in Montana land, who made a request that I play Midnight Sun as part of my Licorice Alive segment. And I want to thank you for helping me get my head back into that really beautiful and exquisite tune. So folks, here I am. I'm back from the Mau Mau, which for those of you that don't know, the Mau Mau is out there amongst the Sandwich Islands, known to the natives as Hawaii or Oahu or Maui. Anyway, out at the Mau Mau, the wind was roaring and the rain was pouring for my whole week. So surf-wise, I have to say it was kind of a challenge. The whole North Shore was basically out of business, either from wind or lack of swell or driving rain. Still, there were plenty of rainbows to enjoy if you enjoy rainbows. But let me say this, rainbows in the Mau Mau are like pigeons in New York or mold in Moldavia. They're everywhere. After a while, I frankly got tired of all those rainbows because they were just colorful reminders that the surf sucked. It got so bad, I really started to think about abolishing rainbows, or at least regulating them. Maybe all those rainbows are like early warning signs for global warming. More research needs to be done, that's for sure. Anyway, try as I might, I did manage a few nice surf sessions over on the west side of that fabled surf mecca known as Honolulu Bay. The waves were small, but the shape was still there. Those fast little zippers were still peeling off the point and the cave, and the cliffs above afforded a little shadow from the wind, which was howling at around 30 knots. So I was able to catch a few, even though my concentration was addled by all those frigging rainbows. But if surfing has taught me anything, it's to take what the ocean gives and try to be thankful. So with gratitude in my heart, I boarded the big aluminum bird and flew back to the enchanted land of law. And here I am back in the wood of my holly under the sign in my movie studio apartment. And as always, I'm trying to explore the netherworld of my brain and maybe, just maybe, shine a little light into yours. Funny thing, my first day back in the La, the sun was shining and there wasn't a fucking rainbow to be seen, so I grabbed my stand-up paddleboard and did a Sunday paddle out at the Boo. I took out my carbon-fibered scepter and I pulled my weight upwind past the big rock that separates the colony from the masses at Surfrider Beach, and then I turned around my 11-foot 4-inch Jerry Lopez and downwinded back towards the pier. There were some dolphins skirting by, and a whiskered sea lion popped his head up to say hello, and then I darted under the pier and made a safe landing at Surfrider Beach. So much for my first paddle of the new decade. So I guess Dorothy was right. There is no place like home. Say it again, Bill. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. And what's up here at home? Well, the PVP, by that I mean the Brat Boy Billionaire or the Predator-in-Chief, has earned a new moniker to kick off the new decade, and that is AIC, or Assassin-in-Chief. I guess he thought he could score points with, I don't know, maybe some of those Republican chicken hawk warrior dudes like Lindsey Graham, or maybe he just wanted to take the focus off his recent humiliation at the hands of nervous Nancy and that pencil-neck geek Adam. And what better way to do that than incinerate that irritating Iranian general dude over in Baghdad. Now, I'm not here to defend the Iranian general dude because, well, I never met the guy, and I'm sure he was no angel, and as an Iranian general dude, his main gig is to kick fucking ass for his beloved Ayatollah. But let me say this. Very few general dudes, Iranian or otherwise, have halos over their heads to begin with. Because if you're a general dude, your main job is to kill people. And by that, I mean not individually. That's for gangsters and stalkers and infuriated husbands and shunned lovers. No, if you're a general dude, your job is to kill folks on an industrial level by the dozens or hundreds or thousands or maybe more. As a matter of fact, the more folks you kill, the bigger the statues they make after you kick the bucket. So, for example, Napoleon has some huge statues over in Paris. So does Ulysses S. Grant in New York. And Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson have their whole selves carved into a huge mountainside down in Georgia somewhere. And this is why generals have to go to military academies so they can learn how to kill folks with as little messy collateral damage as possible. But still, mistakes happen. And nowadays with drones and fighter jets, that also means killing not only bad guys, but also folks at weddings or in hospitals or just out shopping. Hey, you know what they say? Shit happens. And if you're a general dude, it's just the price of doing business. So, all things taken equally, becoming a general is probably not the best way to get to heaven. At least if, thou shalt not kill is indeed an actual commandment. Maybe it comes with a caveat that if you're a civilian, thou shalt not kill. But if you're a general, you can kill as many as your heart desires, or failing that, as many as your president orders. So there you have it. And what a surprise it would be then, if and when you pass through those pearly gates at the end of this illustrial life and we go into that heavenly otherworld, you were greeted by the likes of William Westmoreland or Robert E. Lee or Grant or Patton or Rommel or Schwarzkopf. Gee whiz, gee, what a nightmare that would be. And if they are, then those commandments are just... well, they're just a big, fat fucking lie. But still, as a general rule, we as a society don't go killing general dudes from other countries unless we are at war with that country. It's bad policy. It's really bad karma, and it's stupid. So absent war, taking out a general dude, or anybody for that matter, is one thing and one thing only. It's murder. In The Godfather, they called it going to the mattresses. And once you start going to the mattresses with people you just don't like, guess what? You have just kicked off another cycle of violence. And once that wheel starts turning, nobody ever knows where it's going to end or stop, or even if it ever will. So, like thus far, after offing that Iranian general dude, what happened? It resulted in a missile strike, and then a plane being shot out of the sky, and a bunch more people getting killed. People who, in all likelihood, never met that Iranian general dude or knew he even existed. Or, take, for example, what happened back in 1914 when that pissed-off Serbian dude shot and killed the Archduke Ferdinand over in Sarajevo. Now, Sarajevo is a pretty mountain village in Eastern Europe in the same general vicinity where they grow a lot of hot supermodels today, and it's where our own assassin-in-chief imports all his wives from. Anyway, back in 1914, before you could say Pussyvakia, armies were mobilized, trenches were dug, machine guns and tanks and cannons fired, and a brilliant symphony of fire and fury that lasted for 4 years. Empires crumbled, monarchies collapsed, boundaries were redrawn in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, and 15 million or so souls departed the planet, after which another 50 million or so died after they caught the flu. Which reminds me, I need to run over to Walgreens and get my flu shot before I get nailed. And by the way, I did see 1917, the new movie, which I'm not sure yet how I feel about it story-wise, but bravura cinema-wise, it is indeed a tour de force. But for my money, If you want to see a great World War I movie, see Kubrick's Paths of Glory, or King Vidor's The Big Parade, or Renoir's Les Grandes Illusions, or finally, All Quiet on the Western Front. Those are the big cinema statements on that war to end all wars, which in reality just started a bunch more wars, some of which we're still fighting. Okay, I'm drifting here. Where was I? Oh yeah, thou shalt not kill. Is it a commandment? Or maybe it's just a recommendation. Whatever. My point is, when you start killing general dudes just because you feel like it, things can get really shitty really fast. Because the other guys and gals have guns too, and missiles, and drones, and grievances that go back hundreds of years. But our very own assassin-in-chief wouldn't know that because he doesn't really know anything, especially when it comes to things like history or geography, or for that matter, Persia, which I think I should say a few words about. First, Persia is a frigging old country, sandwiched between the southeastern underbelly of Mother Russia and the Gulf of Oman. Persia, or Iran, has been a pivotal piece in what was known as the diplomatic great game for centuries. Empires and armadas tried to control or coerce it, usually without much luck. And Persia is way older than the USA, which we like to call the United States of America. But to our Iranian friends, the USA stands for United with Saudi Arabia. Funny how we all like to see the world through our own lens. Anyway, history-wise, back in 1951, right after that general, what's his name? Eisenhower. Right after Eisenhower got free federal housing in the bunker at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the Iranians successfully evicted that young Shah named Pahlavi from his peacock throne in Iran, and a democratically elected dude known as Mossadegh started running things. Anyway, Mossadegh decided that Iran wanted a fair share of their oil profits, which British Petroleum was pumping out of the Iranian desert by the boatload and shipping back to power their ships, cars, and factories back in merry old England. So, when the Brits refused to renegotiate the oil revenue at Mossadegh's kind request, Mossadegh did what any self-respecting, democratically elected dude would do. He nationalized the oil, meaning he took it back from those British Petroleum dudes. Well, this infuriated the British Petroleum dudes. They went batshit fucking crazy. As a matter of fact, they were so consumed with anger that they begged that GI General turned president dude named Eisenhower to help them get their oil back. Well, Eisenhower thought about it. He thought about it hard. And finally, after a lot of difficult deliberation, he reversed the current American policy set by his predecessor, Truman, and he sent over a bunch of CIA dudes to get Mossadegh out of there and bring back the deposed Shah dude who was scoring hot chicks in Paris at the time. Now, amongst those CIA dudes was the grandson of Teddy Roosevelt. His name was Kermit Roosevelt. And the other general dude was named Norman Schwarzkopf. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because Norman Schwarzkopf was the father of that other Norman Schwarzkopf general dude who kicked ass in the first Iraq War. But that's another story. Anyway, these two American CIA dudes trained a fledgling army of Iranian fighter dudes, and through exquisite timing and a little bit of luck, Roosevelt and Schwarzkopf Sr. pulled off a coup. They kicked out the democratically elected Mossadegh dude and brought back that young Shah dude who was scoring hot chicks in Paris, and they put his ass back on his peacock throne. In exchange for which, the Brits got their oil back. Anyway, this whole episode pissed a lot of Iranians off, and it was why they finally got rid of the Shah dude what was that, like 25, 30 years later in like 1979, and they put a bunch of mullah dudes in charge. Now, mullah dudes don't mess around. These guys are tough. And Americans didn't like those Islamic mullah dudes because they wore really ugly clothes and they didn't shave and had these ugly long gray beards. And the mullah dudes were afraid that the American CIA dudes would pull off another coup and bring back the Shah dude, even though he was really sick. So the Iranian mullah dudes went and they took all the Americans in the Tehran embassy hostage, which in fact destroyed Jimmy Carter's presidency and eventually got a cowboy actor named Ronald Reagan free federal housing at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Anyway, long story short, and a few more wars later, we finally arrive at the present moment, which feels like a very dangerous one indeed. And this time, we don't have a cowboy running things or that GI General dude. We have a first-rate imbecile running the show. Who knew that through the infinite wisdom of our founding fathers who crafted our beloved Constitution and gifted us this tenuous human experiment called democracy, well, it would be democracy if not for the Electoral College, which, as we now know, turns out to be part of Trump University. But who knew that this remarkable construct of governmental checks and balances, which was designed to cull from our massive populace the most capable and honest of our citizens and yield them up as our leaders, who knew that this construct would allow for us to pick the biggest asshole in the whole friggin' country to be our president? Who'd have thunk it? So hold on, folks. 2020 should be a bumpy ride indeed. Okay, gee whiz gee. There's a little background for you, and I hope it wasn't too boring or academic. And for more info about Iran and what happened there in 1951, 2, and 3, check out the book All the Shah's Men by Stephen Kinzer. He breaks down the Iran deal really well. It would make a great movie. Way better than Argo, which won Best Picture, and for you trivia buffs, yours truly had a small part in. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I'm an actor too. I like to spread my rejection around. Check the credits to Argo. I'm in there. So there you have it, folks. A little historical runaround courtesy of the Rebel Without Applause or Rebel Without a Girlfriend or whatever you want to call me. And off we go into the brand new political year. And as of this moment, my plan is to head to the sound of the guns. By that I mean over there in the WPL, otherwise known as White People Land, or also known as Iowa. I'm hoping to talk to the folks over there prior to their caucus and get a groundhog's view of what the folks are thinking over there. So until then, or before, Namaste, Shalom, and Aloha, or Nama Shaloha.